It's the year 2000. The Dreamcast has been chugging along now for 2 years, and it's not in the best of states. As innovative as it was,
So much extra space in our room to do activities.
it couldn't stop its own downfall. But before the plug was pulled, Sega would go on to develop the first ever console MMORPG. That's right, in a time of dial-up, Sega envisioned a game which could be played with friends over the World Wide Web.
People like you suck. You're a fucking loser, like, you fucking pussy.
The game, of course, was Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star Online, or as the cool kids say, PSO, was the first MMORPG that I ever played. However, I never actually got to play it on Dreamcast because, as I said, it was the year 2000 and this is where I lived. Obviously, I'm joking, life wasn't that bad.
But there'll be all sorts of things that I would have wanted as a kid that I couldn't have, right? Famously,
An internet connection to play my Dreamcast on. I'd have to wait another year before I got my grubby mitts on this masterpiece when it was ported to GameCube and Xbox.
You got me.
And through the power of Xbox Live, I got to enjoy this game in its full glory. That was over 20 years ago.
It's been 84 years.
And it got me thinking, is it still possible to play the game to this day? And would you believe it, through the power of private servers, you can indeed still play this once great title. So if you're someone who enjoys playing dead and irrelevant games or just watching videos about them, then maybe you should check out my Just As Dead and Irrelevant YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. So join me on my journey as I play Phantasy Star Online and try really hard not to nostalgia in 2024. Let's begin. So a few of you are probably wondering, how on earth did I manage to play Phantasy Star Online? Well, the simple answer is private servers. In particular, I used the Athena server, which is a free-to-play, fan-made server and emulator. It's pretty straightforward to get set up, however, I will have an article on my website with a few more additional instructions which you might find handy. And to anyone wondering about the legality around private servers, well...
But Saul, how can I sue these people and institutions? I have no grounds. Do me a favor. Let me answer that question in person. Better call Saul.
After a few minutes of tweaking the settings and configuring my Xbox controller, yes that's right, I'm using a gamepad, I was ready to go. And first up was the character creator screen. There are 3 main classes to choose from. You have the Hunter, the Ranger, and lastly, Force. Each class has its own speciality and unique races to choose from. Now, in terms of character customization, it was a bit limited. You had some presets basically to choose from, which you can color differently, and you were able to change your character's proportions. But there's no like jiggle physics or anything like that. I mean, this is a game from almost 20 years ago, so it's understandable. Also, your character is gender locked, which I know in this day and age might cause some issues for some people.
Shovel! You are dog shit! Fucking crap! Ideology into everything! Every single solitary fucking thing!
But ironically, it's got a good mix of male, female and robot characters, not like BDO with its 17 women and 2 men. I did make 2 characters because my first character, Optimus Poo.
My name is Optimus. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet.
I know what you're thinking, how did I even come up with that joke? It was so well written. But as I was saying, I had to start again because I cocked this one up, and I'll get to that a bit later on in the video. So, without further delay, let me introduce you to Type 2 Genji.
I need healing.
And with the character creator out the way, I was ready to start my adventure. First up, I'd have to select a server, and I was pleasantly surprised as to how busy this game actually was. On one of the nights, I noticed that there was over 200 people online. I opted for the US server simply because it's the most popular, and also because I play ridiculously late at night, so hello fellow Americans. We have a lot in common, mainly our sleep schedules. And with that, I was level 1 and raring to go. Let's begin. The main player hub acts as a meeting place for you to socialise with other players, organise raids, and most importantly, join or create a team. Max team size is 4, or you could be antisocial and go it alone. Once you've created your party or joined someone else's, you'll then be teleported into a 4-player instance. From here, you can go to the bank, you can go shopping, and most importantly, you can pick a quest to complete. You can pick between guild missions or the main story quest line. Guild missions allow you to do missions with certain objectives. Usually they're timed, a lot more difficult, but with a better reward. Naturally, it's better to complete the story first before jumping into a guild mission. But apparently I'm a fucking moron, so I didn't do that. I went straight into a guild mission, and I learned the hard way. Now, something that I find slightly perplexing is the fact that the countdown timer starts the minute you finish your conversation. So naturally, with 10 minutes on the clock, I knew I had to rush and get down to that planet and do whatever I was supposed to be doing. Except I didn't do that. I ran around like a headless chicken for a minute and a half and wasted some valuable time. I eventually found the teleporter and made my way down to the planet. So, the real question was, after 20 years, would I remember how to play? No, I did not. To the untrained eye, this looks like very basic combat, but I assure you, it's a lot more complex than it looks. Your basic moveset is a heavy attack and a light attack. Heavy attacks do more damage but are slower to charge, and light attacks are quicker but do less damage. You also have some consumables that you can equip and use. Right now I'm using a monomate, which is basically a health potion. When attacking enemies, you're trying to land a 3-hit combo. But it's not as easy as button bashing. You actually have to time your attacks, and you can even weave heavy attacks into this combo. And as you can see from the footage, I was certainly a little bit rusty. There's also a bunch of weapons to choose from, each one having its own pros and cons. For instance, you can get a broadsword which does a sweeping AoE attack. There's a variety of guns so you can do ranged DPS. And you see that little robot thing hovering around on my back? If I feed it enough items, it actually levels up and unlocks some special abilities, which can be triggered when I do enough heavy attacks.
Nice!
But sadly, at this point, nothing was going to help me, for I was too low level and this mission was too hard. So inevitably, I died. So naturally, I went back to the ship and I picked an easier mission, is what I wish I could say. Instead, I spent the next 6 minutes trying my best and ultimately failing and dying over and over again. And what did I get rewarded with after all my effort and time? A whole stack of nothing.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So after those tragic events, I decided to go do the main story questline. To anyone wondering what the actual story is behind Phantasy Star Online, it's simple. Pioneer 1 was sent out on a research mission to discover a new power, resource, something along those lines. Whilst it was there, it was all like, hey, you guys should come see this planet, we found some great stuff. So, Pioneer 2, upon receiving the news, decided to come along and see what the big deal was. However, whilst on the way to see the planet, Pioneer 1 then realised it made a grave mistake by coming to this planet because it unleashed some new evil and was all like, oh no, what have we done? And they just vanished. So now, Pioneer 2 has gone to the planet trying to find out what happened to Pioneer 1, and that's where you come in. Obviously, there's more to the story than that, but it's the year 2000, all you really need to know is that there's bad guys you need to go kill. So off I went to do my first mission. I mean, how hard could it be? It's literally the first mission. At first, the combat seemed to be going well. I was doing my combos, I was doing damage, and I was even blocking some abilities.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Apparently, I hadn't learnt my lesson from my first encounter with these, whatever these rat face things are. So history went on to repeat itself. One memory I didn't have of this game was dying at level 1 over and over. So I headed to the shop to see if there's a way I could improve my armor, my weapons, just anything really. And it was in this moment I was reminded of one of the key fundamentals about this game. It's supposed to be played with other people because it's a MMO. We got chatting and I soon explained that I kept dying, so I was upgrading my gear. At this point, Safety said the one thing I really want to hear: I will help you. And boy oh boy, they certainly did help. And just like that, I was a noob no more, for I was level 2. With Safety by my side was making short work of the enemies, I was gaining experience and gaining new items. However, I did make a mistake when creating this lobby. You see, you can change one of the options to make it so that loot is shared, or it's first come first serve. And I had obviously chosen the wrong option. No. And that red thing in the background is a rare drop. Now, could I be angry at Safety? Were they aware that the loot was first come first serve, or did they simply not care? Was I going to let this spoil my playthrough? After all, without Safety, I wouldn't have got this far. So it felt only right just to let it go and not mention it ever again. But fuck you, Safety. I love you, really. We continued on our mission, killing all manner of things. Safety also gave me some advice. I assumed they're American. And that was to use a gun, which I didn't have, but they kindly dropped me one, which unfortunately I wasn't a high enough level to actually use. Maybe I'm just too British. They did, however, tell me how I can use my traps. I then proceeded to level up once more. But most importantly, we had successfully worked together and completed the first mission, which meant I was due a big fat juicy reward. And that was it. I collected my reward, Safety went their own way, and I got put back in the main hub to go ahead and do another mission. A lot of people will have strong feelings as to whether Phantasy Star Online is even a MMO or MMORPG, simply because instances are restricted to 4 players. But you have to understand, this game is over 20 years old and was on very limited tech. Multiple lobbies, 4-player raids, and a persistent player hub was kind of a big deal. What it lacked in large lobbies, it made up for in the social aspects of this game, because let's be realistic here, MMOs are supposed to be social. And that's exactly why I have such fond memories of this game. No matter what lobby you joined, people were always going out their way to be social. And it looks as though that trend has carried on even in the private servers. Not only that, there is a lot of MMORPG characteristics about this title. For instance, you have to level up your character by grinding mobs. Is that not the most MMORPG thing you can do? You have random loot drops as well as named loot drops. There are a variety of buffs and debuffs you can apply to yourself and enemies. There are even different roles you can play in the 4-man team, and this can be dictated by what weapon that you choose and the techniques that you have equipped. But generally speaking, you could have a tank, a DPS and a healer. There are also big boss battles which are designed to be taken on as a team. And yes, they even have clans that you can join, so you can be that extra level of social. And the funny thing is, it all started to come together when me and 3 other random people joined the same lobby. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still managed to complete some of the other missions by myself, but it wasn't anywhere near as fun. To my surprise, our group actually stuck together for a few dungeons, and we actually managed to accomplish quite a bit. And I have to say, we did a pretty good job, even with our varying skills and experience. Funnily enough, the topic of conversation soon changed as to why everyone came back to this classic title. What was the catalyst that made them want to play PSO again? And I think the thing is with games like these is that they hold a lot of nostalgia. For myself, as I said, it was the first MMO I ever played. And for a lot of people, I'm guessing it's the same. But anyway, all this talking to random strangers on the internet was draining my social battery, so we persevered on to the next dungeon, and you might actually be surprised as to what happened next. One of the things I love about traditional MMOs is just how much they make you dedicate your time to completing a dungeon. Once you're in, you're in. You're committed to your team. You can't go for dinner, you can't go to bed, you have to complete it, otherwise you'll be forever shunned in that community. And the imaginatively named Cave 1 took almost an hour to get to the final boss. Now, whether it's because we're all low level or we're just bad at the game, I'm not sure, but I enjoyed that hour. It was a moment of bonding. But the question still remained, had we bonded enough to take on our last challenge? Don't ask me what the lore is, but apparently there's some giant sewer worm which we have to kill. And boy oh boy was I ready for this.
Oh, hi Mark.
My strategy was simple. Stand still and shoot the big worm creature. What could go wrong? It turns out there's a mechanic that if you don't do correctly, well, half your team could potentially die. There's an item that you can use to revive your teammates, but up until this point, I've not had to use it, so I don't have it equipped. But luckily, my teammate knew exactly what to do. For the next phase, I found out how Japanese women feel when they get to star in any manga comic. The tentacles seem very relentless and grabby, and as if they want to do all sorts of naughty things to me. But luckily, I got through it. I'll skip ahead a bit, but essentially the mechanics went round in a loop again, and as you can see, we got the health bar quite low. What I didn't count on was two things. Number one, being shat on by the giant worm creature. And number two, I didn't expect it to have a second health bar. It was like an Elden Ring boss with a second phase, although it was the exact same mechanics over and over. But with a lot of persistence and a lot of teamwork, we managed to fell the great beast. And as you can imagine, I was overwhelmed with joy as to what we just achieved. Sadly though, I had to call it there because it was like 2 in the morning and I needed to go to bed. A big shout out to Zara, Blastgirl and Shinobibot, you did make this experience that much more enjoyable. And it just goes to show even a slight bit of social interaction is enough to uplift any MMO experience. Phantasy Star Online is a throwback to when MMOs were a lot simpler and just goes to show how much they have evolved over the years. Even the definition of MMO has evolved. However, it is still in line with modern MMOs such as Warframe and Destiny, who also have a very similar gameplay loop, where teams of 4 will work together to try and clear content, whilst also having a centralized player hub for socializing. If there is one thing that truly impresses me about this game, it's simply the community and the player numbers. This is just one private server for PSO. Combined, I wouldn't be surprised if it had more players than New World. That never gets old. But anyway, I digress. I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed making it. And to anyone wondering what happened to Optimus Poo, well, basically, I joined the level 20 lobby at level 1. The other players were very polite and they didn't kick me. And for the next hour, I ran around shooting stuff and basically doing no damage. Until eventually I just got bored and gave up. And I went to bed without even finishing the dungeon. So yeah, kind of decided to start again after that. And on that bombshell, I'll end the video there. Let me know in the comments below if there are any other MMOs you want me to check out, no matter how dead or how active they are. If you want to help support my channel, by all means, leave a like, maybe even subscribe. And if you want to go that extra step and support me, feel free to sign up to my Patreon or YouTube membership. I usually spend that money on my taxes, so it goes to a good cause, I'm sure. I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen for you now that you might be interested in, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. But bye for now.